Hello, everybody. We are ready to go through the Futato exercises for lesson 12. This is on the construct relationship between two nouns. This is a feature of Hebrew that's very similar to, if you've had Greek before, it's very similar to genitive constructions that you've seen before. If you've not had Greek, basically in English, when we use the word of, we're doing something oftentimes that's similar to what Hebrew's doing with the construct chains. So we'll start over here with the exercises. Exercise C, we'll go through here and translate these phrases looking for how this construct relationship is functioning. Is it functioning to express possession, or is it functioning to describe some sort of adjectival relationship, some sort of description? That's that sort of idea. So number one here, we've got Lavav Hanavi. Lavav Hanavi. So the translation here, again, you've got Lavav. This is in the construct. Remember, a construct noun will never have a definite article. So you can't tell whether or not the construct noun is definite just by looking at the construct noun. The definiteness of the construct noun is determined by the definiteness of its absolute. And so when we go to the absolute noun, it is definite. Therefore, we're going to translate lavav as definite, even though it doesn't have the article here. Remember, a construct noun cannot have the definite article. So you can't determine its definiteness based on the lack of article, because it'll never have the article. Here, lavav is definite because it's absolute. Ha-navi is definite. So we would say the heart of the prophet. So think about that phrase, the heart of the prophet. Is this some sort of a description of the heart? Or is this more likely connoting possession of the heart? Whose heart is it? Most likely this, one of the unfortunate things about this exercise is a lot of times this decision is dependent on broader context. So there's going to be a few of these that could go either way. But in this one, it probably makes more sense to translate this as the prophet's heart than, a heart characterized by prophecy or something like that, or the heart characterized by a prophet. This is more likely just the heart that belongs to the prophet. All right, number two, we've got Torat Hamelik. Excuse me. Again, to figure out whether Torat is definite, we have to look at the absolute. The absolute is definite, so Torat is going to be the instruction of the king. The instruction of the king. So is this going to be the king's instruction? Now again, possession is probably a bad way to describe this. You could say the instruction that belongs to the king, but more likely this would be something like what we call, and again, you'll learn about this in intermediate Hebrew when we talk about in more detail the different functions that the construct can have. But this is what we would probably call a subjective genitive, where the absolute is functioning as the actor of the construct. So here, instruction, this would be the instruction that the king gave, or something like that. If we say the king's instruction, or the instruction of the king, we're basically talking about the instruction that comes from the king. He's the one instructing. All right, you're not going to translate this as the instruction given by the king or the instruction the king gave or something like that, because that's too interpretive. Especially elementary Hebrew, you want to stick with fairly literal translations so that, I, as the instructor, can tell that you know what's going on. But this is more likely to be possessive than what would it sound like if we use this as an attributive construct? It would be something like the kingly instruction, or the What would be an adjective for king? The royal instruction. Now that's possible. The royal instruction. So this is another one that maybe if you said the royal instruction, it might be able to go either way, because that makes sense as a phrase in English. But you need broader context to figure out which way to go with it. Number 3, we've got Beged Kodesh. Beged Kodesh. This is going to be here. We do not have. Again, we have to check the absolute to find the definiteness. There's nothing about Kodesh here that makes it absolute. There's no article. There's no possessive suffix or anything. So this would be clothing of holiness. Clothing of holiness. It probably doesn't make sense to translate this as clothing belonging to holiness or holiness's clothing. So possession is unlikely to be the intention here. This is better translated as holy clothing. Again, we think, what is an adjective related to the idea of Kodesh? Well, Kadosh. Okay, so why doesn't he just say Beged Kodesh? Beged Kadosh. Why doesn't he just say holy clothing? Why would he say clothing of holiness? Well, there are theories that when you use a construct relationship to express characteristics or descriptions, it's a little bit more emphatic than when you just use an adjective in an attributive sense. When you have two nouns in an attributive sense, it tends to emphasize the adjective, or I should say, it tends to emphasize the description a little bit more. But when you have just an adjective in an attributive relationship, often the focus is more on the noun. Again, that's debatable, but that would be one way of saying, okay, why use this construct relationship? Why not just use an adjective? That would be one reason. Number 4, we have Devar Hanavi. So this is, again, we have to check our absolute to find out if this is definite or not. It is. We have a definite article here, so we have the word of the prophet, or it might be the message of the prophet. This is one that could go either way. This could be the message belonging to the prophet's message, or if you were to turn Hanavi into sort of a description, you might use the word the prophetic word or the prophetic message. So this one could go either way. My feeling is Futato probably goes with possession here. Number 5, we've got Navi. And again, some of these, like Davar, in the absolute, this would be Davar with 2 kametzim. Okay, but here we've got Devar with the Shava and Patach. Navi, or Navi in the absolute would be Nun Kametz. You see that up here, Nun Kametz. But here it's Nun Shava. So some of these words you can tell that they're in construct. Other words like Beged doesn't change the way it looks. And so the only way to know that it's in construct is here we've got the makef, kind of hyphen is sort of how the makef functions. Fortunately, it looks like a hyphen. That kind of gives us a hint that there's a relationship between these two words. So that tells us that it is construct. But there are going to be times when you have construct nouns that don't have the makef and they don't look any different. And in those situations, really context is the only way to tell whether it's construct or absolute. Usually when you have two nouns right next to each other, especially if one lacks the article or any sort of definitizing feature like the article or possessive suffixes or anything like that, and it's right next to another noun, especially if that next noun does have the article, that's a pretty good indication that you've got a construct relationship, because otherwise it would be difficult to translate. It's hard to see that here without any other context, but to just translate clothing holiness, like, how do those two words relate to each other? Well, a construct relationship makes a lot of sense here. So again, you often will need to use context to figure out what's going on, but fortunately, many Hebrew words do have a different construct form than their absolute form. All right, so number 5, we've got Navi Haaretz. So again, we have to check our absolute to find out if Navi is definite. We have a definite article, so it is. That would be the prophet of the land. So is this the earthy prophet, the land-like prophet? Probably not. This is probably the prophet that belongs to the land, the prophet of the land. That is to say, that is this land's prophet. So I would say possessive here. All right, number 6, we've got Zevach Hayom. Zevach is another word that looks the same, whether it's absolute or construct. You'll notice that a lot with the segulate nouns. They're not going to change. But thankfully, we have the makef here, letting us know that there's a close relationship between these two. Again, we have to check our absolute to find out if our construct is definite. We do have the definite article, so this is the sacrifice of the day. So, couple ways this could go either way. You could have today's sacrifice. That would make sense, and that would kind of be possessive. But if you were to convert hayom into sort of a description, you might say the daily sacrifice, and that would also work. So again, it depends on context. Number 7, we have Yad Hana'ar. Yad Hana'ar. Here, I believe Yad in the absolute has a kametz. I think that's the difference between the absolute and the construct form. But Yad means hand of. We have to check our absolute to find out if our construct is definite. Sure enough, we have a definite article, so this is the hand of the servant or the boy. The hand of the servant or the hand of the boy. Now, that makes perfect sense as possessive, the servant's hand or the boy's hand. If you were to turn hana'ar into some sort of a description, it could work. You know, the servile hand, the serving hand, something like that maybe. But that would probably work better if these were indefinite. You know, a serving hand rather than the serving hand. So I'd probably lean towards possession here. Number 8, we've got Mishpachat Ha'em. Mishpachat Ha'em. Mishpachat is the construct form of family. We have to check the absolute to find out if the construct is definite. We do have a definite article on the absolute. Therefore, we have the family of the mother. So this would pretty obviously be possession, the mother's family. If you were to try to take, mother and turn it into some sort of description, you could say something like the motherly family, but I'm not sure that makes a whole lot of sense. So this would be the mother's family. Number 9, we have Milchemet Adonai. So Milchemet, this is from Milchama, which means battle. Milchemet, we need to check our absolute noun. The definiteness of our absolute noun will determine the definiteness of our construct. As I look at the absolute, I don't see a definite article, but the definite article is just one way that definiteness may manifest. There are 2 other ways. If this absolute has some sort of possessive suffix, then it is definite by default, just by nature. For it to be possessive, that means it's definite. And a possessive noun, a noun with a possessive suffix won't have the definite article, but it's still definite. So that's a second way that Hebrew may express definiteness. And then a third way is what we have here. This is a proper noun. This is a name, a personal name. Yahweh, Adonai, the Lord. And all names, all personal names, are proper nouns. All proper nouns are, by nature, definite. You're not going to give a personal name to more, like, it's not a general thing, it's specific. It's giving the specific name. This is specifically the battle of the Lord. So even though we don't have a definite article here, we understand that Yahweh as a proper noun is definite, and so milchama would be definite. So we've got the battle of Yahweh, the battle of Adonai, the battle of the Lord, however you want to translate this. Quite unlike, it's probably, if you were to try to use this as adjectival, some sort of description, you could say, I don't think there's any way it works with a personal noun, or a personal name, maybe a proper noun, but not a personal name, to do this as adjectival. So this has to be possessive as far as I can tell. So this would be Yahweh's battle, or the Lord's battle, or Adonai's battle. Number 10, we have Ish ha-Elohim. So Ish is, again, one of those where you can't really tell a difference in the absolute form or the construct form. But if we were to just translate this as two absolutes, we would get a man, God, or a man, the gods. And that doesn't make any sense. So we've probably got a construct relationship here. In order to determine the definiteness of the construct noun, we have to determine the definiteness of the absolute. We have a definite article, therefore the absolute is definite, which means that the construct is also definite. So this becomes the man of God, or the man of the gods. So the man of the gods, you might be able to make the divine man work. I'm not sure if that makes sense with a plural here. That might need to be Ish Ha'el, like that might be the divine man. But this certainly works as possessive. This would be God's man, or the man of God. All right. Let me check the assignment. We'll go to D, E, and F. All right, so here we're looking at attributive versus predicative adjectives. So, hakohanim, hakedoshim. Right, here we've got two articles, so they're both definite. The adjective comes after its noun, so this is almost certainly attributive. Hirik yod mem indicates masculine plural. Number 2, kedoshim ha-kohanim. Here we've only got one definite article. The adjective is indefinite, or it lacks the article. And it also precedes its noun, so here it's certainly predicative. And the hirik yod mem, again, it indicates masculine plural. Number 3, yashar haderech. Again, we've got an adjective preceding its noun, and it lacks the article where the noun has it. So this again would be predicative. The way is straight, or the way is right. And then the adjective does not have any ending, kametz he, hirik yod mem, or holam vav tav. So that indicates that this is masculine singular. Number 4, we've got ha-mizbeach, ha-tameh. Ha-mizbeach, ha-tameh. This is the unclean altar. We've got two definite articles, and the adjective comes after its noun, so this is attributive. Again, no, especially for gender and number, I'd look at the adjective, because the adjective never lies. We don't have kametz he, we don't have hirik yod mem, we don't have holam vav tav, so this is going to be masculine singular. Number 5, we've got zakenot ha-torot. So here we've got an adjective. It lacks the article, whereas its noun has the article, and it precedes its noun. So this is going to be predicative. And basically we're going to have the laws are old. The holam vav tav on the adjective indicates feminine plural. Number 6, we have ha'aim, hazechena. Hazechena. There we go. Excuse me. So ha'aim and hazechena both have the article, and the adjective comes after its noun. So this is attributive. Look at the adjective, you've got a comet hey, so it's feminine singular. If we look at number 7, we have he'arim hagedolah. He'arim hagedolah. So here we have two articles. The adjective comes after its noun, so this is attributive. And then looking at the adjective, we have the holam vav tav, that indicates feminine plural. Number 8, tova ha'aretz. Here we have an article on the noun, but no article on the adjective, and the adjective precedes its noun, which would indicate that this is predicative. The earth is good, or the land is good. Looking at the adjective, we have a comet's hey, so this is feminine singular. Number 9, we have ha'avot he'chachamim. Ha-chechamim. That's not easy to say. Here we have two articles, both have the article, and the adjective, the root of the adjective here is chacham, wise. The adjective comes after its noun. So this is going to be attributive. This is going to be the wise fathers. And looking at remember, the adjective never lies. If we look at the noun, we see holam vav tav, we might think feminine plural. Of course, we know av, father, is masculine. Av is one of those that just takes the quote-unquote wrong ending for whatever reason. But the adjective never lies. The adjective shows us a hirik yod mem suffix. And so we know that this is a masculine plural construction. Then number 10, we've got Rasha'ah Hamishpacha. All right, so here we've got a definite article on the noun, but no definite article on the adjective. And also the adjective precedes its noun, so it's going to be predicative. The family is wicked. Looking at the adjective, Ra'ah, we see comet's hey, so that's feminine singular. All right, let's go to E. Here we're just parsing. So again, you've got these answers. I'm going to just go through what I see here, kind of the tips and tricks. And then if there's anything I don't answer, feel free to ask me. But I've got, here when I look at this one, how many letters is a Hebrew root supposed to have? 3. How many do I have? 4. So what's extra? Well, dalet wouldn't be a suffix, so dalet must be part of the root. Would I have a prefix here? Well, aleph is used as a prefix in the cal imperfect. It indicates 1 CS, which means my root here then would be pakad. Number 2, zacharnu. How many letters am I supposed to have? 3. How many do I have? 5. So what's extra? Well, is Zion ever used as a prefix? No, so Zion must be part of the root. What about the suffixes? Is shurik ever used as a suffix? Yeah. We use shurik as a suffix without a prefix in the cal perfect 3CS, but if this is a suffix, just the shurik here, I've still got 4 letters, so something else is extra. Let's back it up to the noon. What about noon shurik? Is that a suffix that I'm familiar with? Yes, in the cal perfect, the 1CP uses the new suffix. This is cal perfect 1CP. I'm left with zachar as my root. Number 3, I've got nidrosh. So I've got 4 letters. What are my suffixes? What are my prefixes? Shin is never used as a suffix, so I must have a prefix. If I go noon, is noon ever a prefix? Yes, in the cal imperfect, noon hirik indicates 1CP. If I take that off, I'm left with darash. All right, so darash is my root there. Number 4, I've got tik tov na. No. Tiktovna, I think. Well, actually, the tov here would be accented. So this is one of those rare situations where short is silent. This isn't short, but it's still going to be silent because I've got an accent mark here. If that's tricky, don't worry too much about it. You don't really need to know whether this shava is vocal or silent here to figure this out. But I've got 6 letters, so that's way too many. So let's see, is tav ever used as a prefix? Well, yes, in the cal imperfect, tav gets used as a prefix for the 3fs, the 2ms, and the 2fs, as well as the 3fp, the 3fp, the 2mp, and the 2fp. All of those use the tav. And the way you tell which one is which is by the suffix. So, what suffixes do those come with? Well, the 3fs and the 2ms have no suffix. We must have a suffix over here because we've still got too many letters. And tick is not a prefix, so the cough here must be part of our root. If cough is part of our root and we need 3 letters, then actually cough, tav, bait, those 3 are probably my root. That is a root that I recognize, katav. So my suffix here would be na. When I've got a tav heric prefix and a na suffix, what conjugations use those affixes? Well, actually 2 of them. The 3fp and the 2fp are identical forms. So here we would have to say cal imperfect 3fp or 2fp from katav as our root. All right, let's see here. Number 5, we've got amada. I've got 4 letters, I need 3, so what's extra? Is ayin ever used as a prefix? No. What about kametz he as a suffix? Kametz he does get added as a suffix in the cal perfect 3fs. If I take that off, I've got amad. So I've got a cal perfect 3fs from amad. Number 6, I've got shamu. All right, I've got 4 letters. Is shin ever used as a prefix? No. What about shurik as a suffix? Yeah, in the cal perfect 3cp, we use shurik. So if I take that off, I get shema. So it's a cal perfect 3cp of shema. Number 7, we've got tikrot. All right, I've got 4 letters. What are my prefixes? What are my suffixes? Is tav ever added as a suffix? Tav is added as a suffix in the cal perfect, the second person singular. First person singular also uses tav, but it's tav heric yod. So let's see here. Tav, if it were perfect, second person masculine singular would use tav kametz. Second person feminine singular would use tav shava, which is kind of what we have here, because if we've got a holum, the problem is if this is cal perfect 2fs, then our root would have to be takar, and takar is not a root that we've learned, and we'd have to explain why we have a holum like connecting vowel between the resh and the tav. So any other time tav is used as a suffix, I guess it's used in the cal perfect 2mp and 2fp, tem and ten, but we don't have those. The only other time would be in some infinitives, but we haven't done that yet. So tav must be part of the root here. If tav is part of the root, we've got karat as our root. Is tav ever used as a prefix? Yes, tav heric prefix would apply to the cal imperfect. This would be either 3fs or 2ms when there's no suffix. So we'd have to write cal imperfect 3fs or 2ms from karat. Number 8, we have shafatem. This is right here, stands out our tem suffix. This is Cal Perfect 2MP from Shafat. And then number 9, we have malachta. This is that tav kametz suffix that I was talking about before. We take that off, we get malach, so we have a Cal Perfect 2MS form of malach. We'll finish up with F here. We'll do number 3. Again, in Hebrew, I'm going to start with the expectation that I'll first run into a verb. That just helps me with parsing. So how many letters am I supposed to have in a Hebrew root? I'm supposed to have 3. I have 5. So what are my prefixes? What are my suffixes? Well, yod hirik is a pretty obvious prefix. Shurik is a pretty obvious suffix. That leaves me with shema. That is a root I know. So when do I get a yod hirik prefix and a shurik suffix? That's in the Cal Perfect 3MP. So Shema means he heard. Yishma'u would be they will hear. Third person verb, let's look for an explicit subject. That would be in the second position. Ha'amim, the peoples. The peoples heard. That works. What do I have next? Ha-rasha'im. This is an adjective. It's masculine plural. It needs to modify a masculine plural noun. Do I have a masculine plural noun that it can modify? Well, right before it I have ha'amim, so this probably modifies ha'amim. How does it do so? Is it predicative or attributive? Well, both have an article, and the adjective comes after its noun, so this is probably attributive, which if ha-rasha'im comes from rasha, wicked or guilty, and ha'amim is peoples, this would be the wicked peoples or the guilty peoples heard. What did they, or will hear? What will they hear? Because it's imperfect. What will they hear? Eit kol Adonai. They will hear kol Adonai. Kol here is in construct. We can tell by the makef. We have to look to our absolute to determine the definiteness of the construct. The absolute has no article and no possessive suffix, but Adonai is a proper noun, which means that this is going to be definite by nature. So we have the voice of Yahweh, the voice of Adonai, the voice of the Lord. The wicked peoples will hear the voice of the Lord. B'yom, so at a day. But again, Yom is in construct with Adonai. Adonai is definite, like we saw up here. So this would be at the day or on the day or in the day of the Lord. The wicked peoples will hear the voice of the Lord on the day of the Lord or in the day of the Lord. All right, that's it for Lesson 12. I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, send them my way. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. Have a great weekend.